It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hey, please welcome back to the program. We have Attorney General Leslie Rutledge on the line. Leslie, welcome back to the show.
Good. Well, good morning, Paul. It's always great to be on with you, and happy Friday to you.
Yes, absolutely. Happy Friday to you as well. I've got this link here, and I want to go over these things first. I got a link, the consumer alerts that you do, and you make people aware. I've got a post here from March 7th, so this week, in conjunction with the National Consumer Protection Week, March 4th through the 10th. Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge today announced the top 10 most common complaints the Attorney General's office received in 2017. So tell us a little bit about this part of your job and what you hope to accomplish by letting people know, the consumer protections that they need to be watching out for.
Absolutely, Paul. That's the number one, one of our number one, or I shouldn't say one of the number one, but rather the number one thing that most people think of is the AG's office being the top consumer advocate, and I absolutely am, and that's what we work on so much. And these top complaints, most people, they're getting those out-of-control robocalls from people claiming to be from IRS, credit card services, Publishers Clearinghouse, and that's, probably, while it's not listed as the number one complaint, that's the number one gripe I get because so many people fall prey to those scam phone calls. And so right now as we go into tax season, Paul, I want Arkansans to know, and especially my good home folks up there in northeast Arkansas to know that the IRS will not call you. Take it to the bank. The IRS will not call you. They're going to send you letter on top of letter. So if a call sounds too good to be true, it probably is. We are working to shut down those out-of-control robocalls. We've put pressure on the FCC, so now they've relaxed the rules, and they've allowed phone companies now to block them if they change the caller ID so it looks like an 870 local number. We just have to get our phone companies to do it. But that's, when people have an issue, perhaps it's a overcharge on a utility bill, if someone has bought a vehicle and it has a bad title from a used car dealer or someone and they can't get resolution from it. Maybe they've gone to a restaurant and someone has taken their credit card number and is using it to pay their bills or using it to buy things at Walmart or the shops down at Turtle Creek, then they need to call us because we're going to help them get resolution to that. Just in the past week, we've had a gentleman who was having some work done on his RV from an out-of-state folks and using a local person, and it was just a battle. He'd been in a battle with these people, it seemed like, for 6 months. He called my office. We turned that baby around and got him full resolution within 1 week. So we want to do the fighting for you. So call us, whether it's a sale of home or good, scam, identity theft, credit repairs, home repair, satellite. A lot of people have those sort of issues. So please let us know what we can do to help. We have an 800 number that can come online at arkansasag.gov, file a complaint, or they can see us in person.
Yeah, I think I've gotten some of these automobile sales service financing and repair calls before, for sure, and it really, they're just obnoxious and annoying, and I hang up on them. But, sometimes they're very convincing. And I think most people, especially the average Arkansan, we're trusting people, We don't automatically assume that somebody's trying to pull one over on us. And yet, what goes on with the phone calls, I think, is certainly a huge issue here.
Absolutely, and I know people are sick and tired of it, and I am sick and tired of people being taken advantage of. And so that's why we've got to shut down these robocalls that are not only annoying, but they are extraordinarily costly for too many Arkansans. They prey on our senior citizens. They prey on our veterans. And they literally take people's life savings from them. And it's a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise, and we've got to get it shut down so that way Arkansans can have their own money, and they can use it toward their own retirement, their own grandchildren, and not be sending it to some con artist or scam artist.
So we've got the website up for those who are watching the program. The 10 most common complaint categories from 2017 were, and one of those, kind of maybe towards the end of the list, is healthcare. What are they complaining about when they complain about healthcare?
Well, as you can see, we received over 400 healthcare complaints last year. So it may be that someone has called claiming to be able to do something with their healthcare that they didn't have the authority to do, to give them services, provide services, help them with their insurance, help them with their prescription medications that they were not able to do. So there's not any one particular area that these 415 complaints came in. But if you have a question on your health care, how it's been handled, give us a call. We also, on that note, Paul, excuse me, we just launched an investigation into what's called a pharmacy benefits manager, who is, for all intents and purposes, the middleman between the insurance company and our local pharmacies. And they were just they've been driving our local pharmacies out of business,
Yes.
it seems like, or trying to, by such low reimbursement rates. And it's hurting not only our local pharmacies, our pharmacists who we know and love and trust and we've gone to for years, but it also hurts our Kansans, because what they are doing is essentially eliminating our options in healthcare by saying that this person is this pharmacy is a preferred provider, you have to use this or this mail order, and it's taking options away from our Kansans. It's raising the prices. It's driving local businesses out, and so we are investigating with these pharmacy benefit managers on behalf of our Kansans.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that, because it's a huge deal. I mean, I think everybody across the state now knows PBMs, or more people do now than they did, 4 weeks ago, and what this is about. And so I'm glad that you're investigating that. And I think this is also I want to pair this with my next question, because you have joined in a lawsuit as the Attorney General of the state of Arkansas, has joined with other states to try, to take to the Supreme Court once again to find Obamacare unconstitutional. Now, that would, in the Arkansas Times reported, that would also mean, if it went away, that it all goes away, meaning Medicaid expansion, it all goes away, and that includes, our program Arkansas Works. But when I talk to these pharmacists, Attorney General Rutledge, one of the reasons that they're upset is because of Blue Cross Blue Shield, and because of the fact that they are in this contract that no one can see with CVS Caremark. And when you start taking Arkansas taxpayer dollars, both state and federal, going to fund the welfare program for the Medicaid expansion that goes directly to Blue Cross Blue Shield, a lot of pharmacists are seeing that as their own taxpayer dollars now going to fund a system that is putting them out of business. So talk a little bit about, so I'm glad that you're investigating the PBMs, but talk about your motivations behind joining with this lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of Obamacare.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head in terms of that Medicaid expansion and those reimbursement rates are really what brought the issue of our pharmacists and pharmacy benefit managers to a head over the last few months. It's been trickling over the last several years, but it really brought to a head of last month. In terms of the lawsuit, we joined a 20-state lawsuit at the beginning of last week, I believe, so it's about 10, 11 days old, against the Affordable Care Act, commonly referred to as Obamacare. And we have argued for years that Obamacare is unconstitutional, that the federal government does not have the power to force citizens to buy insurance that they don't want and they can't afford. And so the case that the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, handed down, which is called NFIB versus Sebelius, was the earlier case in Obamacare. And it was a very narrow approval, if you'll recall, of that lawsuit. And Chief Justice John Roberts, he really stretched the law to save Obamacare by characterizing the individual mandate as a tax. Well, fast forward to the Trump administration and the tax reforms that were passed, the tax cuts that were passed right before Christmas of this year, and those tax cuts eliminated the tax penalty associated with the individual mandate. So therefore, it's our argument that the court's 5-4 decision to uphold the individual mandate as a tax is no longer valid. Essentially, the crutch that Chief Justice John Roberts gave Obamacare has been eliminated, and it's no longer there. So the mandate can no longer be considered a tax. The taxing power given to the federal government by the Constitution can no longer justify the Obamacare mandate. So we're essentially arguing that now that has been removed, that the Affordable Care Act cannot stand on its own because it does not have it will not have the votes of the United States Supreme Court to be upheld, because that's the Chief Justice John Roberts voted with the 4 liberal judges at the time to uphold the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, and
and now this is not something I want Arkansans to know, that these lawsuits, as they well know, but just to remind them, so that way you mentioned the Arkansas Times and their scare tactics, that everybody's going to lose insurance. That is not the case, but these lawsuits are going to take months, perhaps even a couple of years to sort out, but definitely months to sort out. It's very unlikely that this court case is going to make its way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, going through the District Court, 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, or rather the 5th Circuit, because we filed in Texas, and so make its way up to.
It's going to be a long process, and of course, there's always going to be the people that are going to say, if that were to be found unconstitutional, there would be legislation to try to, mitigate the damages and stuff like that. With what you're saying, that should be what and that should be what happens. Is that the Congress should decide how to address this problem, just as we have with regard to the DACA program. And last fall, a group of states and AGs, and Arkansas was part of that, said that the previous administration had overreached, had gone beyond its scope, and that Congress needs to fix this. And that's what we're saying again, is that this law was unconstitutional. And so if the courts find it unconstitutional, Congress needs to be the ones to fix it, not the court, not the executive branch, but rather Congress needs to fix it. Yeah, and I really appreciate you signing on to this lawsuit, because Arkansans, I don't think they like Obamacare. I don't think they have from the beginning. I don't think it's gotten better. Over the years, it's been really a complete disaster. And so I know the majority of Arkansans are appreciative of what you're doing, signing on with these other states in this lawsuit. Back real quick, if we can just back up to the PBM issue one more time. One of the things that the pharmacists are saying is that they want transparency. So it's a difficult thing. They want transparency in what the contracts and the agreements are. And of course, CVS, Caremark, Blue Cross Blue Shield, they're going to say, no, that's proprietary, that's private, these are our contracts, the public can't see them. Of course, if the public saw them, I think they would see some very egregious arrangements. So how does that work, when you're going to have contracts, but then at this point, though, we're talking about taxpayer dollars, and it seems like with health care, it's getting harder and harder to find out where the government ends and where the private company begins.
And that's exactly why we launched this investigation, why Governor Hutchinson is going to be calling for a special session on PBMs following the fiscal session to address this issue through the legislature and hopefully get PBMs regulated. It looks like they're looking at having PBMs regulated through the insurance department. But when it comes to transparency, these contracts, as you noted, Paul, they're out there in outer space, and we can't have access to them. So we're going to gain access to them, see if they are, in fact, giving terrible reimbursement rates to our local pharmacists and others, while at the same time giving much better reimbursement rates to their own CVS pharmacies or others. And they're essentially picking winners and losers.
Yeah.
Another very concerning aspect that I've heard as I've been out talking to pharmacists, to Arkansans, has been that individuals are receiving phone calls from these direct mail pharmacies and saying, well, we see that you have this prescription running out. Would you like to have this prescription filled? We can send it to you. And sending them a 60-day supply of something. How do they even have access?
Yeah.
How does this direct mail pharmacy even have access to someone's personal health records? How do they even have access to know what medicines they do and do not have? And so my concern is that the proper firewalls are not in place that they should be, because when I go to my doctor, I expect that conversation to be between me and my doctor and the staff at the doctor's office, and then between the pharmacy, that somebody from another pharmacy, a direct mail pharmacy, should not have access to what medicines I take and how much I need. But these firewalls do not appear to be in place. And so CVS not only has a prescription benefit or a pharmacy benefits manager, so there's three parts of it. CVS has a pharmacy benefits manager known as CVS Caremark. They have the CVS pharmacies, and they have the CVS direct mail pharmacy. And too many people are getting phone calls from direct mail pharmacy saying, you need to use us instead of your local pharmacy.
Yeah,
We can send it right to your door so you don't have to get out. But I'm concerned about the privacy of our Kansas healthcare and the access of others using it just as a commodity so they can make millions and billions of dollars. That PBM, pharmacy benefit managers, are in the top 25 Fortune 500 companies. They're in the three of those PBMs are in the top 25, and two are in the top 10. They do not produce any products. They don't make anything. It's not like an automobile maker or somebody who's. They literally are the middle person between the insurance company and our pharmacist.
Yeah, I heard.
Yet they are.
I heard. I heard.
It's just outrageous.
Yeah, 1%. I heard 1% of the corporate tax revenue. 1% is paid by CVS Caremark in the entire country. That is a huge sum of money, if that's true, and I believe it because there's a local pharmacist that told me that, and that came from CVS. Leslie Rutledge, Attorney General, I appreciate it. We've got to go to break, but I'd love to do this again sometime, and I've got the number, I think, it's an 800 number, right, to give to folks if they have consumer problems?
Absolutely. If they have consumer issues and want to give us a call, they can give us a call at 1-800-482-8982. That's 800-482-8982. Visit us on the web, arkansasag.gov. If you want to talk to me, I'm the only Leslie there. I'd be happy to help you, but we've got terrific staff, professionals that want to do the fighting for you. So if you have a consumer issue, if you need help, give us a call, come see us, visit us online.
All righty.
We're there to help you.
All right. Thank you so much, Attorney General Leslie Rutledge.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Folks, you're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. Back in a moment.